leadership in this process. That's been the most powerful, I think, thing that we've experienced in our new positions. Thank you to Jake for being an awesome partner on this crazy journey, figuring out what this looks like in our building, and to my family for their love and support. I couldn't have done it without you. Thank you, Governor Burgum, for recognizing this important work in our schools. Thank you.
All right. I'm so humbled and thankful to be here with you guys. That's all good.
I'm going to get that up a little higher for you.
Oh, yeah.
I think you're talking great.
Oh, cool. Thank you. First, I want to thank our district, namely Rachel Bachmeyer and Jake Kinsley over at West Fargo Public Schools. They're phenomenal. We couldn't do work in community if we didn't have that community to work with, and so we're so thankful to work with them. Secondly, I wanted to thank Teresa Blackcloud here. Oftentimes, it's felt like we're creating a plane as we're flying it, and so it's been like, stick your hands out the window here. We need to make sure we got a wing. I don't know, but anyway, it's been nice to have a co-captain on that journey, and so I couldn't be more thankful to work with Teresa Blackcloud. And finally, as I close here, I just wanted to tell a really quick story of I guess the why, right? Why restorative practices? Why do we do what we do? And it would have to be in the end of the year. And so in the end of the year, we had two students that were once friends, really have a falling out that really affected them socially, emotionally, and then eventually violently too. And their harm was caused was in all of their areas of life, at home, at school, academics, and everything. And we were able to work with them and work through that conflict with them to a place where they could find reconciliation, where they could right the wrong that they did. And that's what restorative practices is about. It's about making right what was made wrong. And so it was so cool to be able to work with them. It was messy because it's relationships, right? But it was worth it. And as those two students left the conference room, getting back on the Discord and planning their next Dungeons and Dragons meeting or whatever they were doing, it was a moment, one of many, where we were like, restorative practices is helping our community. It's making them feel loved and accepted and a part of the school. So we couldn't be more thankful, couldn't be more humbled to be here today. So thank you so much.
That was great. Fun to have two award winners that are doing great work together. So far at this year's summit, we have heard about the what are the skills for life and learning. We have listened to students, parents, and leaders about the why we need to focus on these essential skills for all kids to be prepared for a life full of learning, community, and work. So you may be thinking, we have addressed the what and the why. Now we want to hear about how this can be done. Our next guest is very familiar to probably many of you from the education world. Please help me welcome Luke Schaefer, Executive Director of Central Regional Education Association, to the stage. Thanks.
Thank you, Maria and Governor Burgum. Excellent day so far today. Our first mini talk is from Ann Williamson, who's the community coordinator with one of our REAs. In this video, you'll hear how we're helping to build connections between schools and communities. We're looking to increase access to resources and supports in order to help the students and our families.
If there's one thing we can all agree on, it's that we want students to be safe, happy, healthy, and ready to learn. The reality is, schools do not have the capacity to provide all of their students and families with the support they need to reach their fullest potential. This can leave schools and families feeling overwhelmed. Success at school is grounded in high-quality instruction and learning. But how can educators get to the high-quality instruction, and how can students get to the learning if needs aren't being met outside of the classroom? So let's take a moment to think about a student we know, a student who is facing obstacles outside of school. Perhaps this student is hungry, things at home aren't stable, maybe they need eyeglasses or they have a physical health condition that's not being addressed. Perhaps this student is struggling with their mental health and they're missing a lot of school, creating even more gaps in their learning. This student is a reality in classrooms across every school. This student needs support that schools are simply not equipped to provide. If you think about it, schools are often the hub of their neighborhood or community. So what if schools could serve as that hub for connecting students and their families with the resources they need? This could alleviate access barriers that so often create obstacles. But how do we expect schools to transform into that hub while allowing educators to focus on their jobs as educators? We get there through the power of partnership. We get there through collaboration. We get there through opening our minds and our school doors to inviting partners across our communities to meet our students where they are, at school. Schools do not have to do this alone, and the North Dakota Full Service Community Schools Consortium can help. In 2018, through funding from the U.S. Department of Education, the North Dakota Full Service Community Schools Consortium was born. Since that time, collaboration between schools, statewide agencies, and direct service providers has occurred to establish a framework that works for North Dakota schools. We partner with local leaders to coordinate comprehensive support in areas such as behavioral health, out-of-school time programming, early childhood education, family and community engagement, academic and remedial enrichment, and workforce readiness opportunities to help students, families, and communities thrive. The North Dakota Full Service Community Schools Consortium supports schools and community partners in navigating these challenges together. There are 4 key cornerstones to the North Dakota Full Service Community Schools model. These essential components include, first and foremost, a school site coordinator. This is an individual with the dedicated time, passion, and skill set to enhance programs within their schools that meet the unique needs of their students and families. A school site implementation team. This is a leadership team that drives assessing needs, vision, and planning. Pipeline service providers and partners. These are the entities that provide direct services to students and families and assist with capacity building among school teams. These are the partnerships that are truly at the heart of the community schools strategy. And last but not least, intentional continuous improvement. The journey to scale and sustain the full service community schools model requires a true commitment to continuous improvement. This includes assessing needs, planning, implementing, and then evaluating and keeping that process on repeat. The full service community schools model is grounded in decades of evidence that supports the impact it has on student success. When implemented with fidelity, outcomes include improved attendance, behavior, academic achievement, graduation rates, student, family, and community engagement, and truly greater odds of students becoming choice ready. The needs of our students and families have never been greater, and the time to support those needs through school has never been more important than now.
One thing that has become importantly clear is that collaboration is key and partnerships are powerful. Our next short clip will feature Heather Simonich, one of our very powerful community partners who's helping support student and family behavioral health and well-being through a collaborative school partnership.
Good afternoon. Several years ago, we began to hear your desperate plea for help in meeting the growing behavioral health needs of our students, and importantly, the need to connect more effectively with their families. Leaning in to learn more, it became clear that educators felt like their efforts weren't meeting the needs of all of our students. What also became clear was that those of us in mental health also seemed to be missing the mark. In general, it seemed like schools felt an enormous amount of pressure to address these very complex needs alone, on their own, with very limited resources. Those of us in community mental health continued to provide services as we always have, largely from our offices, with minimal engagement or collaboration with the schools. And clearly, there was a need to do something different. The result of this learning was the development of a new service between Nexus Path and local school districts, and with the local school districts and Nexus Path team together to jointly hire a Nexus Path case manager that is placed in that local school building to provide intensive Tier 3 supports to referred students and their families. This unique collaboration between Nexus Path and the school district allows these students and their families to receive intensive support throughout the calendar year. Support in navigating a complex behavioral health and social service system, support with parenting skills, crisis response, transportation, basic needs, and encouragement to just keep putting one foot in front of the other. I believe strong school community partnerships are our best solution in meeting the growing behavioral health needs of our students. These strategic partnerships leverage additional expertise, workforce, and importantly, funding streams. The response to this new service partnership between local school districts and Nexus Path has been overwhelmingly positive. Administrators and teachers report significant relief and an ability to focus on their primary responsibilities, while students and families make progress towards their goals. So what does it take to build strong school community partnerships? In working with 11 different North Dakota school districts and over 25 different school building principals, here's what I think we've learned so far. It takes a fundamental belief that it is our responsibility to meet the needs of all of our students, and that we can do this better together. It takes strong communication regarding roles and responsibilities, mutual respect, and the humility to learn from one another. But most importantly, I think this takes grit, or the courage to try something new, to get it wrong, and to try again. Strong school community partnerships are essential to meeting the needs of our students today. Strong school community partnerships are essential in retaining our workforce. Strong school community partnerships are possible. Our partners in education have taught us this. If it weren't for their support and commitment, I wouldn't be here today to share this story of innovation, collaboration, and grit. Thank you, and enjoy the upcoming panel discussion.
The beauty of innovation is there's no one way to do it. And so to help us dig deeper into how schools can work to build these community networks and powerful partnerships to address student needs, please help me in welcoming Wilton's Superintendent and Principal Andrew Jordan and Lisa Klabundi. Thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your story. Just a few questions that I'd like to ask you to help us figure out how you're doing this in Wilton. Andrew, you've been a principal and a superintendent in Wilton. You've got a portrait of a graduate there. Can you tell us just a little bit about what that portrait of a graduate is, what it does, and what it looks like on a day-to-day basis with educators?
Sure. Before I get into that, I really think, and I told Maria earlier, that we probably should have been at the beginning of the day, the what, because these students are really making me look bad.
We were like, how do we get out of here quickly? Because this is an innovative group. Yeah.
Anyways, you know, it all started back at a conference that I attended where I saw Ed Leader 21, which is now merged into Battelle for Kids, talk about a portrait of a graduate. And at that same time, Choice Ready framework was rolling out, and so it was a great opportunity for us to engage our community on exactly what do we want for our kids when they graduate from Wilton. And so we created a community committee that had business leaders, parents, staff members, a board member on there. And then we engaged our community in asking the same questions. And these are not my questions, these are Ed Leader 21, Battelle for Kids. But what are the big changes in society over the last 50 years? What are the skills that our kids need in order to meet those changes? And then what are the 3 to 5 that we want our kids to have when they graduate being minors? And so we took that process, we engaged our staff, we engaged the community. It was a really great process, which I think has strengthened our communication with our community and brought them in for a lot of different things other than just just the portrait, but we took it a step further and actually developed a profile of an educator with our staff. We felt like if these are the skills we want our kids to have, what do we need in our staff in order to do that? And I'm not, I know there's a staff shortage out there, obviously, but we feel it's very important that when we hire somebody that they fit into our culture and those competency skills. And so we've developed all of our interview questions right around those competencies that we look for in educators, and it's been a great process to go through for us, and it's just led to a whole lot of different things down the road. But what a way for us to start communicating with our community more and really engaging them in what we're doing at the school.
What a great way to approach education. And what we know is if we want to do this work, we can't just make tweaks, we've got to redesign it. So Lisa, when you think about redesigning the school so that we can address the needs of our students, what does that look like in the school? How do we redesign a whole system that's been around for over 100 years?
Yeah, that's a great question. And if I knew, I would tell you all.
Hire good people.
Yeah. But no, truly, I think one thing that Governor Burgum talked about today that really resonated with me is when you talk to community members, it's really easy for them to say, well, we didn't need that back in my day, or back in my day, my dad likes to say that too, and he's like, I turned out just fine, and he's questionable, but, still. Gotta love them. But so I think the first way to really redesign schools is to communicate out to your community that kids needs the same things they need at home, that sense of belonging, that love, that structure, that discipline, all of those things translate into the school as well. And so I think if you can make it a bit more human for your community to be really able to understand, just like what they need at home is what they need here at school. And once you have that support, then you go out, I think, and find the partnerships that help you do the things that you don't know how to do, because we don't know how to do a good majority of things. And so that we rely heavily on partnerships because we don't want to think we know what to do or do it best. We find people who are much, much smarter than us.
So partnerships are vital to full community schools, and you're one of the pilot schools in the state of North Dakota. Andrew, can you just share a little bit about your journey and your vision in finding partners and working with your community as you venture down this road of full-service community schools?
I think it started with that portrait. It really was the North Star for us. And so, I know No Child Left Behind has this bad persona with it, but I mean, that's really our approach, is that we don't want to leave any kid behind. And so how do we reach all of our kids? And, anyone that has gone through the MTSS and has a system in place knows that that's going to reach about 95 to 98% of your kids, but it's not reaching all of them. And so what do? And that's where our partnerships through the full service community schools has really propelled us in really reaching all of our kids. We've got some great partnerships. You just heard from Heather from Nexus Path. We have a targeted case manager that comes out every week, and so she's a vital connection between us and families that maybe we weren't connecting with before. It's not somebody from the school, it's a third party making a connection with them. And we formed a really great partnership with Sanford Health and Behavioral Mental Health, and so we have Dr. Cross Hillman that comes out every other week and meets with some of our students. And so vital in order to reach the whole child and some of our kids that really our system doesn't catch. And so can't say enough. When the funding goes away, we have to figure out how to sustain these programs because they mean that much to our kids.
In education, outcomes are so important, and recognizing where we're trying to drive to and how we can get there is just a part of it. But success looks so differently in so many different ways. When we're working with the whole child, success might look differently than an A on a report card. Lisa, can you tell us a little bit about what success looks like at Wilton with this model and these partnerships?
Yeah, definitely. I think so the beauty of this like system and thinking about how it really serves 95 to 98% of our students super well means that sometimes those big time success stories, the things that we feel have, you know, are the most impactful are often like really small victories too, right? So just a couple of maybe success stories. We had one family who I think just had a on and off relationship with the school. Like any parent, you're wondering, you know, how are you meeting the needs of our kids? And through the partnership with Nexus Path, we were able to hook that family up with some additional services through targeted case management. And at the time, our targeted case manager her name was Gabby, and this family started affectionately referring to her as my Gabby, you know, how I couldn't do any of this without my Gabby. And so it wasn't something that like that we had these big awards from or anything like that, but what it did was it helped support the stability of that family outside of the school, which in turn really improved our relationship with that family inside of the school as well. So I think that's what success looks like. It looks like some kiddos who don't show up to school on a regular basis all of a sudden coming, or getting kids enrolled in our after school and summer program care and being able to take care of that fee so the families can get them to be able to be engaged in the summer.